The next embellishment I'm going to show you how to create is a sparkly, sort of pearlized paper doily. Now I'm using a doily that I bought in a giant pack at my local sort of 5 and dime type store. They're very thin and they're pre-cut. And it's nice if you don't to use these if you don't have some of the popular dyes that are available. So I'm going to use my Distress ink in Peacock Feathers, and I'm using my pearlized water, which I've created with Perfect Pearls pigment powder and water in this little mister bottle. So I'm going to heavily sponge my paper doily. Now you do have to be careful if you use the store-bought ones because they are very thin and they do tend to tear rather easily. But the other nice thing is the paper that they're made with is extremely porous, so it really sucks up the ink when you apply it to it. You don't have to really apply a lot of pressure or be too heavy with your ink application because it really is very rich and sucks up all that ink, which is nice. It makes it look nice and bright. So as you see, it's extremely bright looking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shake up my Perfect Pearls powder and my pearlized water, and I'm going to give it a few generous mists. And see, now it's nice and shiny and wet looking, and I'm just going to zap it with my heat gun. And again, be very careful with your heat gun and this thin paper because you don't want it to burn. And I'm just going to move it around at a decent distance because I'm impatient and I don't want to wait for it to dry. I do both the front and the back when drying any project with my heat gun to make sure that it doesn't curl in places I don't want it to curl up on, specifically the edges. And when it's all dry, you get this really pretty, it's a little bit hard to tell in the video, very nice sort of subtle shimmer, and the embossing texture on it is really pretty, and it just goes lovely with any project. Oh, there's a little spot of water there. It just enhances the background or any project. You could even use this doily and cut it circular and make it into a big paper doily flower, or you could cut the center part out and just use the center to create a rolled flower. Lots of possibilities with this, but just a nice little cute, quick DIY embellishment. My last project for today is another stacked, sort of a chipboard looking embellishment. Another tip I picked up from Jennifer McGuire. I'm using just some scrap paper I had lying around, a Martha Stewart butterfly punch, my glossy accents, and a little bit of baker's twine. And I don't know why I didn't think of this much sooner, but Jennifer McGuire is just such a genius, and she has such great ideas, and it's so fun to share them. So what I'm doing is I'm just punching out 4 or 5 butterflies from my cardstock, and I'm going to grab that ink blending tool that I used earlier and just very quickly hit the edges of this butterfly. Again, you don't have to be terribly precise or fancy about it because most of these will be covered up by each other. But what I'm not going to do, as I did with the stars, I'm not going to adhere the full shape to itself. I'm going to just adhere the center piece. So this is going to be my front butterfly, so I'm just going to set that aside. So again, I'm going to go in with my glossy accents. I'm just putting a tiny dot right there in the center of that butterfly body, and I'm going to leave the wings not glued. So here's my third layer. And the nice thing is you can do this with any die cut, any punch you have, and really change the way that your punches and your die cuts, and sort of get more life out of them, if you will. So I've stacked all those butterflies on top, only adhering the bodies. So now I'm going to add my final layer. Put my glossy accents aside. Okay, now I think I actually cut 6 butterflies that are stacked together. I'm just going to hold them for a quick second. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fan out all of those beautiful little wings. And when you add this to a project, it just really makes it pop off of your project, come to life, and give such wonderful texture and dimension. Now, as another final touch, I'm going to take my baker's twine, and I'm going to fold it in half, just the length that I had. I don't know, it's about a foot or so. Fold it in half. And I'm going to thread my butterfly through that loop. I'm going to twist once or twice around. I think I'm only going to do once. And I'm going to give it a nice tie at the top. And I'm just going to give it another little knot just to make sure it doesn't wiggle free. I'm going to use my scissors to trim off the extra. And then we have some really sweet little butterfly antenna to go along with our new stacked, sort of fluttering butterfly. So I hope you've enjoyed my embellishment tutorial. Just some really simple, basic tips and tricks that I've learned along the way that you can do with almost anything you have on hand at home. Thanks a lot.